All right. Okay, so I want to run through lifting properly. So, and I talk about this a lot. I was talking with a patient yesterday who's been lifting for a while, uh, and it was funny because we started going over it, and I was like, "All right, well, what are you doing?" And he told me, and I was like, "Cool. You know, how well is that working?" And he looks at me and he goes, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, how well is it working? Like, how is it getting you to your goals and stuff like that?" And he goes, "I think it is." I went, "How long have you been doing it?" And he was like, "About 5 or 6 months." And I was like, "You have no idea if it's getting you closer to your goals or further away or anything." I said, "Well, how have you been tracking it?" And he goes, "I don't know." And he's like, "I just go and I do my thing and see how it feels." So a couple of things on this. And I know I harp on this a lot, but it's super duper important. This is the basis for everything you're going to do. I talk about how there's different workouts for what our goals are, and that's 100% true. We have to set our workouts according to our goals, but we have to set our goals right, and then we have to track them. So when we're trying to figure out what we want to do in the gym, you got to plan that out. And so if you're like, "I want to get stronger," fantastic. How much bigger do you want to get? Do you want to get bigger? Do you want to get stronger? Is this functional for a sport? Is this functional for long-term life? Are you trying to be a best offensive lineman or tight end or linebacker or soccer player or ballerina or female softball player? Like, what is the goal? Because every sport has, like, if people come in all the time and they're like, "Oh, I'm a swimmer," and I'm like, "Okay, so your shoulders are going to be messed up. You've got pec issues, you got neck issues." And they go, "Oh," we're like, female soccer players come in, basketball players come in. I'm like, "Okay, we have ankle and knee issues," and they're like, "How'd you know?" Because every single sport has specific higher level damage to individual joints because you use them more. And so if you don't understand that concept of, "I am in this sport, I'm going to have excess force through this joint or this range of motion," then you're never going to be able to offset that damage. So for instance, when the swimmers do this all the time, it activates the pectoral muscles. So they're going to roll their shoulders forward and their hands are going to come in and down because the pec attaches to the humerus right here. It's going to roll it in, which is going to give you AC joint issues. It's going to give you trap issues. It's going to give you neck issues, jaw issues, things like that. Headaches, tension headaches, that type of thing. And then people are going to mistake those for fatigue, and they're going to tell you that they're tired all the time when they're just bound up, especially female swimmers, because women carry a lot of their stress between their bra line and the base of their skull. So if we're doing a lot of work that's going to push stress and fatigue here, and then they're fatigued and stressed there anyway, it creates secondary problems that we have to account for. So you've got to do lots of posterior back legs. So posterior fly, you got to posterior delt, rhomboids, traps, things like that to offset the active motion, the repetitive motion that's pectoral driven, especially because the pectorals are flexor groups. So, and if none of that made sense to you, you definitely need to come get things set up properly. But that's the thing. So we have to understand, why are we lifting? Why are we exercising? What are we training? Like I always tell people, you should never work out, you should always train. Training is working out with purpose. You get your purpose from your goals, and then you set your tracking function from the goals you've set. And so if we don't understand the goals, we can't track properly. And so we're never going to move forward in where we actually want to be. So this is one of the reasons people stop working out, because they go, "I want to see results," which everyone should want to see results. That's return on investment is why you should do everything. And this is a good part of tracking, because if you go, "Well, I went and worked out, I didn't get where I wanted to go." Where'd you want to go? "Well, I wanted to get better." Better how? "I want to get stronger." Stronger with what? Like what are your actual goals? Dial them down, because you're like, "I want my bench press to go up to X. I want to look like this." That's why I ask people, I'm like, bring me pictures of what you want to look like. Let's get in our head where we actually want to go, and then we can design how to get there once we get. This is why it's so important. I always tell people, we got to find out where you are. This is why we do the nutritional muscle testing. So we do all the blood. So we do the imaging. Where are you today? And then where do you want to go? Without these 2 points, you can't design a plan. And so when we start talking about, how are you supposed to lift, that's entirely depends upon your goals. So a lot of the stuff that I do when I just plan things out is I ask, "Do you want to be the biggest, strongest guy in the gym?" Most women tell me no. I've never had a woman go, "Yeah, I want to be the biggest, strongest woman in the gym." I've never heard that. I'm sure somewhere out there There's women who are like, that's my goal. And I would love to work with those people. But anyway, that'd be so much fun. Anyway, but usually it's, even guys don't tell me that. They're like, look, I want to look good. I want to feel good. I don't want my joints to hurt. I want to be, most guys are like, I'd like to be a little bit bigger. Usually what I hear is like, I want to be bigger, but not like you, which is funny because I said the same thing to Kuklo. And now I'm like, I mean, he's not that much bigger than me. So, again, it is where it is. We track everything through. But that's kind of the thing. Like, until we figure out where our goals are, we can't figure out what the best exercises are. Now, so what I'll typically do is I'll just, if we're putting something together, I will always put it together, unless we're specific for a sport, I will always put it together with longevity in mind. So the things are, when you're 45, you should be able to move through daily life with zero pain. Picking stuff up, moving stuff around, picking up boxes off the floor, none of that should hurt at all. And people out there are like, oh, it hurts all the time, because you haven't trained your body to do those things. And this is really important, because if you're in a position when you're 40 or 45 or 50 and things hurt, you can't, like, your daily life, like picking up a box or going to Costco and getting water or whatever, and you're like, that makes me sore. How are you going to be in 20 years? This is a dead serious question. If you're 40 or 45 and your daily life makes you sore today, it's always going to degrade as you get older. So where are you going to be in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Like, just go look back. Like, where were you when you were 25 and now you're 35 or 40? Is it better or worse? Okay, that's a real easy way to just kind of start to get the idea. But what we'll always do is we'll say, okay, look, we need all the joints have to work. And so we're going to make sure that we do extra extension function, because that's hindbrain function. We got to push back against that. We got to make sure that the body's capable and movable. The joints are functioning the way they're supposed to. And the number one thing we have to work on is balance and coordination. Foot, ankle, knee, hip, pelvis, low spine, and on every single person. Because what's the number one thing we're worried about once we get past about 55 or 60, especially for women? Falling, breaking hips, breaking pelvis, breaking things like that. If you said that, you're 100% right. That's the number one thing we got to worry about. Ligaments of damage is right behind that one, but falling and breaking a hip can be deadly. And I'm 100% serious about that. You're like, how is that possible? You take a 75-year-old woman who's active and doing things, and she falls and breaks her hip, and now she has to be sedentary for a while. Not good. We start seeing blood clots. We start seeing muscle deterioration, atrophy, osteoporosis. We start seeing, because there's lack of information from the body to the brain, we start seeing, memory issues. It goes downhill real fast. I've seen it lots and lots of times. So keeping all those things together is really, really important. So designing exercises that are specifically built around creating and maintaining postural function, balance, coordination, core functionality is really, really important. And you can do, if you design your workout properly, you can do chest work that also builds your core. You can do back work that also builds your core. You can do legs that also builds your core. Legs are the easiest way to build balance, stabilization, and core functionality. So, but just tweaking the exercises a little bit, you can get giant muscular function. You can get balance and coordination function. You can get brain activation function. There's lots of different ways of setting it up so that you can get cardiovascular function just from lifting. So depending on what your goals are is going to radically affect how we design your program. And you might come in and say, look, I want to get a little bit stronger. I want to look a little bit better. And I want to make sure I have balance and coordination stuff for the rest of my life. Great. That's a pretty easy thing to put together. And then it's just, as you start kind of getting on it, then it would be, now that you kind of are on the program of this, is there something else you want? And usually guys are like, I want to see my abs and I want bigger arms. Usually women are like, I want bigger thighs, I want a bigger, rounder butt. Easy. Okay, great. And as we roll through, we just put those things, we change those things up, we make sure they're in. But the other thing is I make sure that you understand, these are the exercises for balance and coordination, and here's why. Here's the exercises for your butt, and here's why. Here's the exercises for your knees or your elbows or whatever we're doing, and here's why. Because once you understand why, then it becomes one of those things where when we start sitting down and we're like, well, what exercise do you want to cut out, because we're trying to make this fit into a time frame? And people go, well, I can't do this one because I still want to, I still got to have my wrists, my elbows work. I can't have this one because I want my shoulders have finally quit hurting. This one helps my ankles don't hurt anymore when I walk up and down stairs. And so we start rolling through things. And I'm like, what do you want to change? And so sometimes we can swap an exercise that does, basically the same thing if you're bored with the exercise. But the biggest thing I'll tell you is if you have a workout that's set up like this, where it's hitting all your goals and we're tracking everything through and we're our measurements of our body, our, body fat function, our strength function, the progress pictures are all going in the right direction. Oftentimes what I'll tell people is don't change your workout, get more specific about it. Because I've been doing the same workout for 2 years, but I'm really, really specific about my form. So instead of just like, oh, I'm doing bicep curls, is my elbow perfect? Is my shoulder perfect? Is my pinky rotation perfect? Am I extending my elbow all the way down? Am I relaxing my hand? Is every single rep perfect? And they're not. So that's the thing. It's never going to be, if you're struggling against a weight and you're struggling against a rep, your form's never going to be perfect. And so that inner struggle has been the thing that's kept me interested and focused in my lifting. And so that's one of the things we try to teach, and that's one of the things that's been really, really helpful. But when you guys are sitting there and you're doing your workouts and you're getting tired of them, you don't know what's going on, think about that. Be like, have I put together a goal of what I actually want? Am I tracking the things that I'm doing and trying to achieve that goal? Have I done all the things I need to do for this particular path? And the thing is, there's lots and lots of things that people miss that, unless you've been thinking about kinetic motion from a neurologic function standpoint for a long time, you're probably not going to get there. Muscle fitness isn't going to get you there. So, there's a lot of great trainers out there. There's a lot of pros out there. There's a lot of guys who can put these things more or less together. You've just got to make sure that, you sit down and put it together. There's a lot of times where I'll build a workout for somebody and do 2-3, modification type stuff. And on the third or fourth iteration, that's all they need. Like, they don't need a new workout every 2 weeks. You can program that in if you have to, but like I said, if you really, really want, these are my goals. This is what I want long-term. These are the best exercises to get me to that point long-term. And I just have to really, really bore down on how perfect am I doing them. You can do the same exercise routine for a long time because you know why you're doing it. You know what the importance is. You're tracking your functionality and you're seeing that get better. And like I said, if you're getting bored, really focus down on how perfect are you doing it. There's lots of ways of doing these things. So if you guys haven't started to think about that for your workout, I would highly recommend that you do, whether you're 13 or 45 or 70, doesn't matter. Figure out, is this workout the very most conducive thing to my goals, and tweak it. So like I said, there's a lot of, and it's always funny because people ask me, all the time, they're like, well, how often do you change your workout? I'm like, I don't. So fast. I've added things to my workout, but the workout I do now, 90% of it, outside of things I've added, has stayed the same for the past 5 years. So, again, we don't need a lot of variation if we pick the very best function for the goals we have. The thing I think the problem we get into is that people are not getting very specific with their goals, which is, again, why the first thing that we always do whenever we sit people down and we're starting to design their program is we go, I need to know your goals. And again, goals are always 70-30 for you, because you've got to figure out what you need and what you want, and then you just have to tell me, because it's important that I have that information so I can design the program. But it's really important that these are really your goals, because if they're really your goals, you're going to work towards them a lot harder than if I make them up for you. So, but figure out your goals, make sure that your workout plan is dedicated to those specific goals, and then work your plan and track it. The return on investment is always going to be the thing. The reason why I can do the same workout over and over and over again is because I've tracked everything. I wear a CGM. And people are like, are you diabetic? And I'm like, what about this makes you think I'm diabetic? I need all the information in my body so that, the diet I'm doing, so that, everything, I can track everything through. Knowing where my sugars are is important. Knowing where your form is important. So figure that stuff out, figure out where you want to go. And if you guys need some help, hit us up and we'll help you put some stuff together. Outside of that, thanks for your time. Have a good day.